Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel. I just wanted to hop on today to talk a little bit about where I'm at in my life at the moment and to share with you some of the changes that I'm implementing and the reasons why. And who knows, it may resonate with some of you out there and help you to refocus yourself and look at what direction you're going, look at what is your priorities, what is serving you well and what isn't, and just reassess the whole of where we're at. So for those of you that aren't aware, I've been on a health journey now for, well, it spans probably 30 years, but more so over the last decade really. And then the last 6 years is quite an intense dental journey for me. But intermingled in all of this with the chronic pain stuff and the dental infections and toxicity in my body, trauma has been a big thing for me. And like a lot of us out there, we've all got stories to tell, haven't we? I imagine very few people go through life without having some traumatic event happen to them. So how do we navigate that really? And there's various things that people do. We either deny it and just push it to one side and steam through life. Other people become immobilized by it, and people feel lost, overwhelmed, in despair. So the pathway that I took was to direct my grief, I suppose, my grief and loss into helping other people. And the outcome of that was total burnout, which I believe led me to develop a chronic illness and PTSD. So I've got quite a few layers of different trauma stories that I felt I really need to get these out of my body. And as an energy worker myself, I'm very mindful and very hypervigilant over what's going on inside my body, and I may approach this different to other people who don't work in that modality. So for me, I suppose it was about, I think it was a couple of years ago, I started going to a new chiropractor local to me. And it was the first person I think I'd actually said this to, but I said to her, I feel like I have trauma memory trapped in my pelvic area around the grief of my daughter that I lost at 20 weeks into my pregnancy, Lucy. And she looked at me, no surprise, totally mindful, and a sense of, well, yeah, that's possible. And it was like, wow. So I suppose for me, that was the first moment of realizing how emotional trauma can store in our body. And it was just so it's a bit cheesy to say, but a gut instinct. So something within me knew that I had an imbalance in that area of my body. And the reason for that is because I knew that the moment I gave birth to my daughter, her heart would stop. So psychologically and my body physiology, my legs didn't want to open to give birth because I didn't want her to leave me. And I haven't really thought about this until summer. We're fast forwarding now to summer 2021. And I'd been working with an acupuncturist since 2020, I think it was. And it started off, I was going just for chronic pain management. And it's organically evolved into something completely, absolutely mind-blowing for me, really insightful. It's been bloody hard work, but I feel so grateful that all this is now clearing. It's going to be an ongoing process. There's no quick fix to these things. But in summer 2021, in one of my sessions doing some breathing work and relaxation work after the acupuncture points came out, the minute my body started going into a relaxed state, it was like, I can only describe it. It was like bing, 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 and all these doors in my brain opened, and I had sensation, first of all, around my throat, where I actually felt I was choking. And when I managed to speak it out, what I thought this was connected with, which again was a visualization thing, once I'd spoken it out, this pain lifted from my throat. And then it was like literally like a concrete weight had landed in the middle of my stomach, and it winded me enough to sort of go, oh, as it happened. And I clutched my stomach and I started just hysterically crying over the baby that I'd lost. And then that eventually passed, and then it went on to me crying, missing my nan, because my nan was a very important part of my life. So these are three things that I've known for a long time are embedded in my being, but I've just carried on with life the best I could. So since this big sort of realization thing in summer last year, I decided to really put my attention on processing this in my body, and the realization as well that your muscles do store this memory, your nervous system stores this memory. And sometimes, and by the way, I'm no expert in the nervous system and trauma, I'm only just sharing my experience. So what I've found is that in doing the work that I've been doing since the summer, and in particular this year, which I'll go on to in a minute, is that it can be something like a building, a place that you're in, a smell, a sound, something that somebody says to you, or the way they touch you. You may not be aware of it, but your body has that imprint of a memory of something that had happened previous. And I've had occasions in my sessions with my acupuncturist where it is like I've had an epidural. The reaction has been so extreme that from my waist to my feet were totally not there. And that's quite a scary place to find yourself. But with the support of Sam, I navigate my way out of it, and it's just flowing into something so beautiful. And I feel very supported on this ongoing journey that I'm on. And I have no time scales, no schedules, no I'm going to be fixed or everything's going to be fine by this date or this number of sessions. I'm just flowing. Flow is key, I'm feeling, to trauma recovery. So January this year, I started another block of sessions with my counsellor, and I've been working with him. This was the third lot of sessions since 2020 and 2020, and I was now ready to do focused trauma work. And I really believe if I had not been doing this other work with Sam and also my own self work, my friend in the States, she's been helping me, Brenda, with body work since 2020 with my fascia and my muscle and my movement. So all these things are like all merging and complementing and supporting one another. So I feel I've done a lot of foundation work with the help of my friend, which then brought me to a place in my acupuncture where things just felt able to start coming out. And then by the time I saw my counsellor, Jamie, in January, I was on a whole different level to what I was a year ago. So we were doing this focused trauma work, and we decided to work on the story of Lucy, my baby. And to say it was intense is an understatement. I wasn't strong enough to have a go at the eye rapid movement therapy, so we did a way of me telling the narrative of what had happened and revisiting the hot spots in it, the things that were really big triggers. And it's very different to like a more holistic way, but it was really good, and it brought me lots of insight. So doing that alongside my acupuncture for 3 months since January, has been full on, all consuming. But I've been on it, and I feel so proud of me for coming out the other end. And my counsellor's been great, because I introduced things that probably most of his clients wouldn't. I didn't want to sit on a chair, for instance, because I felt very exposed and vulnerable. So I'd take my folding patio chair cushion, so it was almost like a crash mat for me. And I found sitting on the floor with my back against the wall far more supportive, because I could lean against it, and I just felt more grounded. And then if I got into a state where I was distressed, I could just crash out onto the mat and bring myself back. So yeah, so the two things running alongside each other have been awesome, and it was harder than what I thought it would be. I knew it'd be hard, but not as hard as what it turned out to be. But something that supported me in these 3 months as well was journaling. And I've tried journaling in the past, and it hasn't really done it for me. It's felt like a chore. It's like, oh my God. And in the end, I just gave up, and it was like writing a diary every day, and I got very bored with it. So it was time consuming. It was physically tiring for me to write, because I have a lot of chronic pain in my wrists. So it sort of fell by the wayside. But this time when I started, I thought, this feels a really important moment in my life, and I want to have a record of it. So what I've done is I've, in the day when feelings would come up or triggers, I'd jot it down in a written form on a notepad, and then every few days I'd type it up. So that's what I've done. And what I found in the process of doing that, and in case it helps anybody else out there, is when I was writing it, I'd get insights of things that I didn't realise at the time why things were triggering me. And then when I went to type it up later on, days later, more insights would come. So it was a bit of a double whammy, really. And I found it really, really helpful. So I'd say to anybody, it may seem like a bit of a chore and you haven't got time, but seriously, if we want to get ourselves on a path to wellness and clear all this stuff, we've got to put the work in. And just finding the right people to support you in doing so is so important. It's no good working with a therapist if you're not in alignment, really. You need to be in a place where eventually you can open up and be the vulnerable you, not the person that you portray to the world. And this experience since January, in particular, with the 2 therapies, I've been able to open up in a way that I've never been able to open up before. And again, that can be quite a scary thing, but it's a really empowering one, because you can look back and think, wow, how far I've come from when I was clammed up in my throat. I couldn't even vocalise the painful thoughts and feelings I was having. So that's the journaling. So this Friday was my last counselling session, and I've been really unwell for the last week in the build up to this ending, because I hate endings. I don't cope with them very well. And when I really like the person as well, apart from being a therapist, that makes it even more difficult, because I want nice people in my life. And I do have friends that are therapists, and as a therapist, I have clients that I engage with on a personal level as well. And I manage to keep the two apart, and it works okay for me, but that's not always the case with some. So there are times we have to say goodbye to people that have played a very important part in our life. And my friend came up with a really good visual for me to help me, of having a shelf. So I'm calling this my Team Jenny shelf. And on that shelf will be certain people with different roles, whether it's counselling, acupuncture, movement therapy, dentistry, doctors, whatever it is, massage therapists, whatever. And they're all lined up on this shelf. So chances are you won't have them all off the shelf at the same time. But as you flow through life and it's a constant process, isn't it? We will be processing until the day that we die or leave this earth onto the next one. So during those times, it's all about identifying, and I feel I'm quite proficient at this. I identify my needs quite well, but then the struggle is how to get those needs met. And it isn't that I want somebody to rescue me or carry me. Years ago, probably yes, and I did. But now I've got a lot more awareness, and I'm putting the work in myself and doing my bit the best that I can. So it's a case for me now. I have this shelf of people. There are actually no goodbyes. It could be just a pause. So there could be a moment in time where I need more help with movement. So I'll take that person off the shelf. And then when that's done, put them back. And there may be some times where everybody's off the shelf at the same time. Who knows? So that was a really good visual. So I don't know if that might help some of you as well, around endings of sessions with therapists, because at the end of the day, nobody's going to be around forever to help us, are they? So ultimately, we need to be able to support ourselves, but sometimes because of whatever's happened to us, we're incapacitated, and it's like being a child where you need to relearn how to do things, and some of those things can be just basic life skills that we've forgotten. So since yesterday, which was a really, really painful day for me yesterday, I've got to say, and it's still a little bit raw, but it's okay. I'm processing it, and it's fine. I was just looking at all my social media activity and looking where I direct my energy and where I put most of my energy into things, and what serves me well, what doesn't, what brings negative stuff into my life, what brings happy stuff into my life. So part of that analysis that I've been doing since yesterday morning is Facebook. Although I have a lot of good connections on there, and I'm a member of several groups that I get lots of good information from, I've decided it's an energy draining thing for me. So it's got to go. And I'm thinking, like a lot of people out there at the moment, there's only so many people actually engage with you on that platform, and it becomes, you're putting all this stuff out and spending time putting so much thought into what you're sharing, and it feels like it's just going out to this empty universe and not reaching people. So I've decided it's got to go. And I can't believe, I've tried to do this a couple of times before, come off Facebook, and I end up getting drawn back into it. But this time I'm determined, and that's partly why I'm doing this video, because it's a commitment. It's I'm making a public statement that this is what I'm doing. And I still have, at the moment, I still have my Instagram account going. I'm on LinkedIn. I've got a website. I write blogs. I do a newsletter. What else do I do? I've got an email address, and I have a phone, and I've also got me. So if you're local to me, let's meet up. What I'm trying to say is I'm really weary of our online virtual world, and what I'm seeing is, and I've said about this before in things that I've written, I'm just seeing it getting worse and worse and worse. And even people who believe in human connection, they're feeding this system of this illusion or platform of make-believe friends. And I don't want to really be part of that anymore. So Instagram for me is manageable because it's short and punchy. I don't get stressed when I go on there. I dip in and out of it when I want to. Very different to Facebook. So my Facebook page has been downloaded now, and I'm all getting ready to hit the delete button today. And I think, as I say, the fact that I feel a little bit, ooh, do I really want this to go? I'm thinking, wow, what a hold Facebook's got over me. So and I think there's a certain nucleus of people that I'm particularly close to on Facebook. We've all got each other's phone numbers. So it isn't like a goodbye to everybody. It's just we're changing our space. So the direction I'm going now is, I dibble dabble on Instagram and everything, but I'm really, really wanting to direct my energies into, first of all, getting myself well as I can be. I want to get back into my healing work, doing what I love because it makes me so happy, and I'm missing it. I'm missing that part of my life. And it's not all about making money. I just want to be doing something that makes me happy, and to bring us a little bit of income would be nice, because I haven't had an income for about 19 years now. And if I had income, I can then finance the therapies that I feel would help support my health. And also I think I look at some people online who are really, really wanting to make a difference, and I can see them getting sucked into it more and more and more. And I think, wow, imagine if we use that energy that we put into social media into creating things. Let's start physically connecting, finding those people that we really and truly resonate with. And I think over the last 2 years, actually, so many veils have been lifted. We've seen true colours of people, what drives them into what they're doing and what their core values are. And I think I had quite a good radar for that actually before the last 2 years, but now it's been fine-tuned, should we say. So I've really got a good feeling about who I want in my life now. And as I say, my direction now is going to be about creating, manifesting, to bring new things and to make this world a better place, not just for us and our children, but future generations, because we truly can't go back to how we were. We just can't. And it's quite scary breaking away from the old system and trying something new, because there'll be quite a rocky period of transition. But we've just got to breathe, and we've got to trust, and we've got to just carry on. I'm not scared to ask for help from people. I used to be really awful because I'm a giver, not a receiver. So I've learned over the last year to start vocalizing my needs, and just thinking, oh God, that fear of being told no, and then that following fear of abandonment and disappointment. But we've just got to do it, and deal with whatever comes up and get the support where we can, but acknowledge that we've got to do our bit too. So yeah, so that's my message for today. I'll put my links to where you can find me on the description of this video. My next newsletter will be out. I'll probably write that over Easter, when it's a little bit of a more relaxed time and I'm not feeling so raw as I feel at the moment. And I've got some really exciting things coming up that I believe are going to manifest into something awesome next year. So fingers crossed. So I hope you're all having a lovely sunny weekend, and thank you for listening. Lots of love.